Hey everybody, welcome to the summer workshop for the Space Shooter and the Blue Ridge Community College Game Makers Summer Camp. So what you see on the screen is the blog portal that will house all the lectures and everything you'll need to create your game. So I guess the first order of business, if you're watching this, is to go to this website right there, and I'll zoom in so you can see. So you see this website right here, spaceshooter.patrgames.com. That'll take you to the page you're seeing on screen right now. Let me move this magnifier thing. Maybe right there. I'll probably be using that. All right. So we're all on the same page here. Let's take a look at what we see. Right here is a quick link to download the workshop assets. We'll get to that in a second. And here's just an overall welcome about what you'll be seeing and what's going to come in the game. But this video is not about an introduction to the workshop. This is about getting started with our day one lectures. So over here in our lessons to the right, let's go ahead and click on day one, assembling our spacecraft. So this is a pretty good page layout I got going on. We have a quick synopsis about what we're going to be doing. So we're going to use the game engine called Unity, you guys may have heard of it, to assemble pre-made parts of spacecraft that I've already modeled and textured to create your own unique various spaceships for the rest of our game here. So what are we going to do in this video? Well, we're going to download and create an account for Unity for those of you watching at home. I'm going to introduce you to some of Unity's menus and buttons so you can kind of get comfortable with it. Then we're going to look and see how we can control our camera in Unity so we can look at exactly what we want to work on. Next, we're going to go with our basic transformation tools in Unity. So that's kind of a weird word, right? Basically, it's the tools we'll use to move, rotate, and scale our objects in our scene so we can put all the parts together and make it look really nice. And then we'll just go over a quick workflow in digital 3D design by creating a spaceship together. Hopefully by the end of this lecture, you'll be able to create all the different types of ships here. In the video, I'll show you how we can create a player ship. And then you can use those same techniques to create your various enemy fighter ships, like so. And be on the lookout for this video tutorial. I'm actually recording it right now, so I can't really post it yet, can I? And this is by far the most important part of the page. All the points, all the things that I'm talking about in this video will be covered in this outline. And after I get done recording this, I'm going to go back in and put in hyperlinks to various bullet points. So if you forget, say, what the inspector does, you can just go and click on inspector. Okay, so why don't we just go ahead and get started? So you can see we're on part one here, and this is where we're going to see how we can download and create an Unity account for maybe doing some work at home. So first things first, why don't we navigate to this little link I have so we can download the version of Unity that we will be using at school. It's a little outdated, but it has all the tools and tricks we need to create our game for this camp. And maybe after you create this game, you can go ahead and update and see what new things Unity has in store. But for now, why don't we go ahead and click on our hyperlink right here on our outliner. And you can see it takes us to this page, Unity 5.5. This is what we want. And then there's a bunch of links down here. More than likely, you're going to want to use the Unity Editor 64-bit, or you can use the Download Assistant. Either way, it will open up a little download or a download assistant, and you'll be able to download the package. I'm going to go ahead and click on Unity Editor 64-bit, and you can see that down here, Unity's downloading the version we want at 4 minutes or less, so it's not too bad. So let's go ahead and pretend that you've downloaded Unity and you've installed it. So that's pretty much basic computer usage. I won't show us how to install software. We got more important things to do. So a little bit of intermediate computer knowledge is needed for this camp. So what we want to do next is create an account for our Unity usage, or a Unity account. So I'm going to go back to my blog, and I've hyperlinked this weird looking URL. But what it does is it will take you straight, at the time of this video, keep in mind, it'll take us straight to our registration error right here. Or not error. I saw a bug and I said error. It'll take us straight to our registration page. And feel free to use any email you want. Um, your Unity account doesn't have to be tied to a school address. It can definitely be personal. Just make sure it's a email address that you can receive confirmation from and not a dead email. And then you'll create your password, username, give your full name, and then I guess you'll touch the bug. And then you'll create your own Unity ID and follow whatever steps, like maybe account confirmation through your email, that they may ask of you. So all in all, it's a pretty easy process with these hyperlinks that I've shown you. Okay, so why don't we now download our summer camp assets and open them up inside of Unity. I'm going to assume that you've already got your Unity account open and your engine is ready to go. We're not going to open up a file like typical. So if you have Unity already open, go ahead and close Unity down. You probably check to see if you could actually get into Unity, but close everything Unity down at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our download link, and I'm going to navigate up to my home section in our lessons folder. And we're just going to click on download workshop assets. Let me cancel that Unity download. I don't really need it. So we click on download workshop assets, and we're taken to this Google Drive download window right here. That's where I have our assets stored. And what we're going to do is we're going to click this little download arrow right up here in the top right corner. All right. So we'll click download, and since it's so big, it says it can't scan for viruses. I think you guys can trust me on this one. So go ahead and download anyway. All right, and then you can see it puts another little download down here for us. But being the awesome instructor I am, I've already downloaded them. So I can go ahead and navigate back to day one and go back to our next bullet point. So now we need to unzip that folder. So why don't we go ahead and navigate to your downloads folder. And Windows 10 has a nice little shortcut right there for us. And there we go. That is what we downloaded off the link a few seconds ago even. So what you'll see is we have a folder with a big zipper on them. This means it's a zip folder. It's just a way where we can take a big folder, compress it down through computer magic, and make it smaller to download. But the drawback is we can't exactly get in there and really do anything with it yet. You may think you can if you just click on it, go through all this stuff. Hey, these are all these files. But trust me, they're locked out to us until we unzip. So how do we unzip? Well, that's pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and minimize my blog, and I'm going to click once into my zipped folder. We can see this is my downloads window. I'll click once into it, and we can see we have a folder in here. Game Maker Summer Workshop Space Shooter Assets. All we have to do to unzip this is simply drag and drop this folder to anywhere, like maybe on our desktop. And for the intents and purposes, you can work off your desktop with this Unity project that you are unzipping right now. So what is technically in this folder? Well, I have textures for when we decide to texture our ship on the second day. But for the most part, it's a bunch of pre-modeled ship parts, pre-textured ship parts, and a lot of programming I've done to kind of get some of the mechanics going for us, so we're not bogged down by doing a lot of extra work. This camp is mainly a design camp, so we already have all the tools and models available to us to kind of make our game. So that's really nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just get out of my downloads folder. And this folder that I just downloaded to my desktop, that is what we want to get to. So notice how I don't have Unity pulled up anywhere. What I'm going to do to open up my game project is I'll click once, and here is our Summer Space Shooter Workshop whatever assets. That's a mouthful. So I have a folder for texturing stuff. We're going to leave that alone for right now. I'm going to click into my Space Shooter Unity project. Unity is the name of our game engine. And then we see all these different folders and files. Try not to click anything. We just want to go straight to assets. Then we want to go straight to scenes. And then why don't you double click start scene? And that'll go ahead and bring up Unity and load in the game project for us. Let's see how fast my computer does this. Oh, it's so fast. Lightning fast. Okay. So for all intents and purposes, this will be how you can open up Unity to get to working. So we see a lot of weird things right now, right? You see this weird window with the, what is that? Is that a highway with 2 lines of tape? Who knows? So in our next part, we'll go ahead and see what we're looking at inside of this window right here. Okay, here we are at part 2, and I'm just going to go through a real quick rundown of some of the menus and buttons we'll be using inside of Unity. My philosophy is get a nice little quick introduction, don't dwell on it too much, and learn these things as you do. All right, so let's get that going real quick for us. So probably the more fascinating of windows here is our assets window down here. If you use, to make sure we're all looking at the same thing, maybe your Unity is somehow weird. If your layout doesn't look like mine, let's do something real quick together. We'll go to Window, Layouts, Default. Good. And that way we can kind of get the same kind of starting area right here. And our asset window right here is really nice. It has all the different parts and pieces of our game. This game assets folder right here, these are things that I've made. You will never really need to use game assets. In fact, I'm going to change game assets to don't touch, just to remind myself, you know, maybe not use these. But if we explore them a little bit, I can show you what kind of things are in here. Here's the basic models. Here's a nice little claw we got right there. A few prefabs, like that's a little bullet, nice glowing bullet. Here are our scripts. Yeah, so that's C# code. So if you ever start learning to program, you'll be able to write stuff like this. Uh, let's see if bullet is as cool as I remember it being. Oh yeah, this is just one script to get my bullet to work with all the crazy options. Um, and where is it? Shot. Ooh, shot is crazy. It has a bunch of little variables where you can tweak how your bullets behave. All right, so I'll digress. Our assets window is a nice little portal. So what can we touch? Well, we have an audio folder if you want to add in sound later. We have a nice prefabs folder where we can have our parts of the environment. And I kind of like to take the asset slider right here in the bottom corner and go all the way small. So all my folders line up and I can read them now. So you can see that folder is actually called environment parts and ship parts. So ship parts is where we're going to kind of be living. And if you wanted to adjust the slider, you can go from, words to pretty big thumbnails. You get a pretty good idea of what parts you want to bring into our scene. So the assets window is really cool. And that's in our project window right there. Don't be confused and actually click on console. That's where all of our bugs will be reported. Hopefully there's none. But our project folder right there has all of our assets. I kind of call it the asset window. Maybe I should change it to project. Okay. So our hierarchy window is another great little window right up here. It's this top left one. And inside of it, we can see every single piece of what's in my scene or what's in my current level. Now we just have a bunch of different objects we can select here. Like if I select directional light, that's the light for the level. If I select my game manager, we can see that, oh, well, there's nothing there. Let's get to something that's cool. Ooh, there's my camera. This is what my player looks through. So if I, move my camera, you can see the camera preview kind of changing. See? This is what we see as the player. So not a very good setup so far. So don't take the camera to heart. We'll fix that up in a few days. But our hierarchy is going to be very important for organizing our scene and just finding where things are in our scene. Okay? I've talked about scene window, blah, blah, blah. So, scene window is kind of like our developers' little sneak peek into the level that we're trying to make. Okay? This is where we build our level, and it's a nice little 3D window into this virtual world that we got set up in our start scene. All right? And right next to it is our game window, and our game window is what the player sees whenever they play the game. Not too exciting, is it? So the best distinction between scene and game is scene is our developer's vision, game is our player vision. And if you ever find that you're in scene and you just can't rotate or do anything, you might actually be in the game window. So make sure you're in the scene window whenever you're working. So here's a very important button to keep in mind is our play button. So when we press play, guess what? We automatically go to our game view. And right now, this is a real-time game. We're playing our game right now. Pretty exciting, isn't it? So there's actually something very important we got to know about the play button right now. It's not playing our game, which is a bummer because we don't really have one, but it offers a really dangerous kind of pitfall. So notice how I have the play button still selected. Let's just do something real quick. Let's just create a cube. And let's say that this is, my player. So I'm going to make him kind of look like a ship. Let's give him some wings. I mean, it's going to be a real bad ship. I don't care. But, let's say, for instance, you were working on your ship like this, and it took you 10 minutes. And you're like, man, that's the best ship I've ever made. I like it. All right. Oh, I'm in play mode right now. That's dumb. Okay. Where did my ship go? Where did my ship go? Well, guess what? When you're in play mode, you make any kind of changes, like making this cube and making him long, anything that you do right now in our scene view. I mean, even turning our camera all crazy, deleting this thing. I press play, all the changes are undone. So right now, don't press that play button, please. You'll kick yourself later. The last big window I want to show you is our inspector right here. And let's go ahead and just select a cool little light we have in our scene. So this is our directional light. It kind of controls what our light looks like on our scene right now. So I can rotate it, and it's kind of like where our sun is. So if we're on the planet, this is noontime because the sun's beating straight down. This is like twilight because the sun's about to rise, and then we go to night. All right, so that's pretty cool. Look at our inspector over here to our right, though. This inspector houses all the different properties of this light here. So I can make it more intense or darker with my intensity slider here. I can give it shadows. I can even change what kind of light it is if I wanted. So our inspector, and we'll be using our inspector in our transform values whenever we start making our ship. But our inspector is kind of like our library or our value tweaking place for all of our game objects that we select. So you'll be using your inspector quite a lot when you're designing all the different rules for your game. And then we also have our menu bars right up here. File does the usual stuff. Instead of like saving a document or whatever, we save scenes. And you can think of scenes as like levels in your game. You can save your whole project. So saving your project and saving your scene right here. These are very important buttons. They save your work, right? So maybe keep track of them. Edit will have things like the cut and paste, duplicate, a few other things that we'll use. Assets, we can create different assets and whatnot. I don't really use that menu too much. We won't be using that menu too much in this project. Game object is a good one. Every single thing in your game, whether it be your light right here, or these big boundary boxes, or even a camera, three very different things, right? They're all considered objects in our scene. Some are seen, like these big white guys. Some actually are the camera, and some are invisible light sources that are just kind of existing in the world. So when game object menu comes up, you better believe it's pretty important. And we're going to be creating empty game objects a lot, and we can even create random 3D objects like cubes, spheres, this and that. Particle system cameras. This is where basically every object in your game can come from that you might need it to. Of course, you can import special models that you make inside of a program like Maya, for instance. There's a nice little hose. You can import those, and those are objects as well. They're just mesh objects. Our component probably won't be using too much of this. I usually handle all my components in my inspector window over here on the right, so that's fun. Window's a pretty important one. All of these little guys right here that have like a tab. See how inspector has this little tab and a little eye. Game scene has a little tab, and then the grid means game scene. Hierarchy has a tab. Look what we can do with these tabs. Oh, we can tear them off. And we can put them anywhere we want. So you might actually, on accident, create a monstrosity like this. Well, guess what? We can just go back to our window layouts and go back to default. Never fear. So let's head on to part 3. All right, so part 3 will deal with some basic camera controls in Unity. So we know how to kind of fly through our scene so we can build our ships really nicely. And it's pretty easy, to be honest. The Alt key, the left Alt at your left thumb, is really all it takes. And since I'm used to playing first-person shooters on my keyboard, kind of like Overwatch or Team Fortress, I can hold down the Alt key with my left thumb. And that's where you want to kind of keep your thumb at while you're working inside of Unity. Your Alt thumb key is just so major. You're always going to be probably rotating in your camera in your scene view. Plus, it gives you access to a bunch of other keyboard shortcuts, like the F key, or a few other ones that we'll see in a bit that'll make working really fast. So why don't we get into Unity and see how we can use this Alt key. So right now, if I just click and drag inside of our scene view, remember we're not in the game view, we're in our scene view, it just selects things. But if I'm in my scene view and I hold down the left Alt key, you can hear me click it there, I'm holding it down. Just keep it held down, it's fine. Now look what happens if I left click and drag. Whoa, I'm rotating around this I'm rotating my camera around that camera. We've just hit Inception. Alright. Ooh, here's a new one. I'm holding down the Alt key, and I'm holding down the middle mouse button. You can see it right there. What am I doing? I'm able to move left, right, up, and down. We call that a camera pan, P-A-N, panning the camera. Alright. And then if I hold down my right click, I can zoom in and out. See how I'm getting closer? I'm zooming my camera into that little icon right there. Alright, so those are our left click, middle click, and right click shortcuts for moving the camera, but they only work if we hold down that Alt key, remember? Okay. So this scene's pretty big, right? It would be forever until I could like navigate and find where. Remember that light I was using earlier? I can't find it anywhere in my scene. It's a big scene. So this is where our hierarchy comes in handy. I can go over to my hierarchy up here, and I'll select my directional light. And then with my cursor hovered over my scene view, we're not in game, we're in scene, I can press the F key, just F with no click, just a single tap of the F will take me to my light. If I go to my camera, notice how if I hover my cursor over the hierarchy window, it doesn't do anything. It just kind of highlights. It just highlights the objects in a big weird yellow box. But if I hover over the scene view with my mouse cursor, it takes me straight over to that camera. And we have some new tools, some extra tools with rendering modes or cameras inside of our scene view. Right underneath my scene tab, we have a little drop down menu that you can click right here. We have shading modes. I can go to shaded or wireframe. Look how those boundaries just turn to wires, right? That'll be useful in a second. Or I can have the best of both worlds and have my wireframes on my shaded meshes. All right. For the most part, I'll just work in shaded right now, though. I can go into 2D or 3D mode. I can turn on the lights and get default lighting, or I can click it on and get what this directional light is doing up here in my scene. Remember this guy right here? And I can turn on sound effects, and I can turn on fog effects. We're not going to be using these two guys right now, but the light may be important in the next few videos, so let's just learn that stuff. I want to make sure we're not in 2D, and my light is turned on. All right, great. Here's another little tool that can help us with our camera, and that's our little view cube up here. Let me zoom in on it so we can get an idea of what it looks like. So you see this little cube right here? All of these little handles, they move with us as we rotate. They show us the direction we're looking. So we got our axes, X, Y, and Z right here, showing us basically where we are in our scene. And we're showing that we're having a perspective view right now. Let me zoom out so I can show you what happens when we start clicking on these guys. I click on the yellow, and I go to a top view. I click on the red, I go to a side view. I click on the blue, I go to a front view. So, very important stuff right there. If I click on the center, I can switch between perspective and isometric. I mean, it's hard to kind of see the difference here, but isometric is basically flat. No perspective at all. So make sure you're not really working in isometric. Make sure this says perspective. And I just want to talk real quick about how perspective versus side views kind of work. So we can see in my perspective view, we can see a horizon. Notice how this part of these lines are big and they recede on to the vanishing point and just kind of disappear in the distance. That's really good because it gives us our sense of depth, right? But if you click into maybe a side view, back right here, now we can kind of line things up quite nicely, if we wanted to. But you can always tweak out of them. So, if you wanted to position something just right, clicking on these little arrows up here will kind of help you orient yourself versus, just moving something in perspective. So why don't we see how we can start moving objects in our scene with more efficiency? And I think I'll go ahead and go into Unity and open up a new scene or drag some objects into our scene so we can see how to use certain things. All right. So I'm going to kind of just go randomly over here. I'm going to go to game objects and I'm going to create a few things in my scene. Sphere, capsule. I got a cube, sphere, and capsule. Very nice. So I'll click on cube, hover my cursor over the scene view, press F, and there's my cube. My sphere is kind of hidden right here. And then here's my capsule right there. All right. So why don't we go over all the different tools we have for selection. To select objects, we need to have our hand selected. We can select them with maybe other tools selected. But if you just want to select things, you can click our hand up here. Or you can press Q, and this is what I do. Q on the keyboard, Q for question mark. All right. It allows you to kind of, actually, yeah, it moves the camera. Cool. It moves the camera too. So if you really want to select stuff, maybe we should use the move tool to do so by selecting stuff. We can also move things with it, so that's nice. We select our arrows up here. And now we get, with our capsule selected, we get these this weird little arrows, and they almost look like handles. And in fact, that's what these are kind of called. So with my capsule selected, Then my move tool up here in the top left, selected, or W on the keyboard. I can now start moving this object around. Okay, nice. I can do the same thing, but with rotation if I press E for elephant on the keyboard, or I can select my rotation arrows up here. And now you can see me starting to rotate this capsule right here, this little pill. I also have the ability to scale, meaning to make smaller or larger, by pressing R for Roger Rabbit. I don't know why I thought of that. R for red, and I can make it bigger or smaller. And we can also select our scale tool up here in the top left as well. I can even move, rotate, and scale on a single axis. Okay, so why don't I go to a new object, maybe this cube, and we can see what that means. Well, what if I just wanted to move this cube straight up and down? Well, select W or my move tool, and guess what? If we click on the top of that little green arrow, I can only move this guy. See, look, I'm going sides. It's only going up and down, right? I can go left or right, or just forwards and backwards. And same thing with rotation. Notice how there's a red, green, and blue orbit right here. I can only rotate around the X right there, or rotate around the Y, and rotate around the blue. And scales the same way. I can make it fatter, and then a little bit taller. And then I can even make it a little bit thinner coming down here. And there's a big, nice, flat wall right there if I want it to be. Why don't we talk about duplicating objects in our scene? And I think we can use the sphere for that. So with my sphere selected, you can see I have my sphere selected in my hierarchy. Ooh, I can select my capsule and my cube. So I'm just going to select my sphere over here. And with my sphere selected, I'm going to press Control and D. So we can see in my hierarchy I have sphere and sphere 1 now. So two separate game objects, right? Well, how come we only see one sphere? Well, when you duplicate something, it duplicates itself right on top of itself. So you just kind of have to move it away. Control D, move it away. Now I have sphere, sphere 1, and sphere 2. 3 different spheres. I can also snap objects. If I wanted to snap something to a grid, if I wanted to snap something to a vertice, what I would do, let me select this right there. I select my object, hold down V for Victor, and then with V and my left mouse held, I can snap my object to different parts or surfaces of other objects. Pretty nice, huh? So that's one way we can snap things. And the last thing about moving objects is we can use our inspector window. So right now, this cube is all kinds of just tilted and, it's just not lined up very well with anything. We go to my inspector with my cube selected, and I'll zoom in for us. So this is the top of our inspector, right? This transform window right here, we just got through learning the transform tools for position, rotation, and scale. Look at all these different values they have. There's a X, Y, Z value for each one of these. And these are going to be pretty important to work with in the future. They're like little shortcuts to making some cool stuff. So right now, I don't like the way my wall is facing. It's rotated. It's not going to be able to snap to other walls. It's terrible. So in my inspector, I'm going to go to my X value, press 0. Y value, press 0. Remember, we're in rotation. Z value, 0. And now, my wall is like straight up and down again. Let's see what we did, but let's not zoom out. Look how when I zero out every single value in my rotation, my wall, gets a little bit straighter because we're changing the values on these different axes. So you can see I was moving my z-axis all around, and just my z-axis. My x and y axes on rotation stayed at 0. Now z's at 6 because I was messing with it. So our inspector right here has a transform component that is directly tied to our position, scale, and rotation of every single object in the game. Why is this important? Well, let's say I had a wall and then I wanted to make a corner. So I'd rotate it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's put them together. Ooh, that's a nice corner. Except your wall, let's go up to top view. Look how tilted your wall is. You thought that was a good rotation? No, that's pretty bad. So what we'll do, you can see that I'm at 96.5 rotation in my transforms. What happens if I press 90? Whoa, a 90-degree angle maybe? So there you go. Transforms in our inspector window. Very crucial. And I'll go back to perspective view. There we go. So keep in mind, and it works with position and scale as well. So we're moving into part 5 now. Let me bring it up right here. We're actually going to do a quick run through of how to design a spaceship using all the knowledge that was just slammed on us right now. I know it's been a grueling video, a lot of little things to learn before you actually get to do something fun, right? Well, why don't we do something a little bit fun? And you can follow along right with me. If you get lost, you can always rewind the video by a little bit. Remember, all these little bullet points will have little hyperlinks. So you can just click them, and they'll take you to the exact point in the video where I was building my ship, or creating the center body of my ship, or creating the left side. You get the idea. So why don't we just hop into these bullet points? All right, so let's go back into Unity. And, we've kind of been playing around in this starting scene. What we're going to do is we're going to click on New Scene. Okay? Do not save this. Do not save it. We're good. All right? So the first thing we're going to do in this new scene, all that's in here is a camera and a light. So you can even delete these things if you want. I usually just leave them here. No big deal. Just leave them in there. So the first thing we're going to do is create an empty group to hold our ship. We have a lot of ship parts. They're just going to be randomly thrown throughout our hierarchy. Let's create kind of like a folder to put all my ship parts in up here. So I'll go to Game Object, Create Empty Object, like so. And you can see I have a new thing in my hierarchy, Game Object right here. Now let's go over to our inspector over here to our right. We've seen our inspector before. Why don't we call this player model? Okay. And when we created my game model, sometimes they'll be all messed up like this. Sometimes when you create a new game object, you'll get just a lot of weird values put up here in your inspector. So what we got to do is we got to zero out these values. So this empty game object, for instance, now has all these messed up values. Every time you make a new empty game object, make sure you click on your cog wheel right here. I'll zoom in. And click reset. So we'll click the cog and hit reset. That creates a nice empty game object that we can house the ship parts in. And look where it's at. It's at the very center of our grid. See where all these grid lines intersect? We're at the center of our grid now. Awesome. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to select our player model game object in our hierarchy right up here. And we're going to hit Control D with our model selected. And that creates a player model 1. Why don't we call this left side? And what we're going to do is we're going to take left side, and we're going to left click and drag it and drop it right on top of player model. And look what happens. My empty little player model now has like a little drop down arrow. It's almost like a collapsible folder or something, right? That's going to be very important in the future when we start organizing all of our assets in our game. So now that I got my 2 empty game objects set up, I'm ready to start making my ship. So I'm going to go to my assets folder, and I'm going to go to prefabs. You can see right here, parts, ship parts. And here we have all the different ship parts in my game. In fact, I'm going to bring up my little slider so I can see them all. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating a fuselage for our ship. So there are 5 different fuselages: a saucer, a sphere. Let's go with a big old blocky guy. And look what happens if we just take, let's do that again. I'm just going to take my fuselage blocky and just slide it into my scene. Ooh, that's pretty cool. It's like a grayscale armor-plated tank-looking thing, huh? That's cool. Well, I modeled and textured this inside of my software for you guys to use. So we're going to have a lot of different parts that we're going to assemble together. But we're not completely happy with where this is located. This is like in the middle of space, right? So what we're going to do after we drag and drop your fuselage into your scene, and I'll show us one more time. I'll click this and just drag it into here. But look, it's located at 16x 7 units on the Y and 14. So it's not in the center of the grid, which is bad. So what we're going to do with fuselage selected, see it's got a nice little outline around it. Go to my gear cog over in my inspector over here. All right, you see this little cog right there? I'm just going to reset it. And what that does is it resets all the values of my transformations, and it basically just centers the center part of my ship. Awesome. So try not to get confused with the directional light and camera. We got our fuselage blocky and our player model. This is what your hierarchy should kind of look like right now. All right, so placing our fuselage in the center of the grid where it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. This is what we call a zeroed out transformation, center of our scene. Very important. All right, cool. Why don't we add some more parts real quick? Why don't we add a cockpit? And it just puts it randomly in the middle. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to reset that so I can get my cockpit in the center of the screen. And then I'm going to grab it in the up axis with my move tool. And then I'm just going to kind of scale it like so. And I'm going to shove it up here. This is where they pilot this ship. And I'm going to keep just adding some things to it. I'm going to give myself a 2-port engine. Well, what did I just do? Look what happens whenever we take something like maybe any object in here. Let's just drag an engine straight into our hierarchy. Let's just drag it straight into this gray box. Look, it already kind of puts it in the center of the grid for you. So that's kind of a better way, I think, to get objects in the scene. So I'm going to add a nice little engine straight at the back of my ship. Keep in mind right now, we're just adding objects along the center of my ship. So along the center axis line, right? When you want to do something like maybe add an engine right there and right there, hold off. There's a better way to do that. But for right now, I kind of want to just have an engine straight down the middle. Oh man, now I can't get it straight down the middle anymore. What can I do? I'm going to go to my X and zero it out. Perfect. Put it just like so. I'm going to make it big. Whatever. Cool. So that's my engine. Why don't I put a little satellite dish on it too, I guess. So I can kind of angle my satellite dish like it's like looking. Oh no, all my handles are weird now. Well, why don't we go and up at the top here where it says center and local, change that to global, and look how our handles are now. So after we rotated our dish, if we had it in local, we could actually move it in the directions we had just rotated it. That can be useful, right? But if we wanted to pull it just straight up and down, we'd have to go to global and do that. Because what I want to do now is just bring in, like a pipe maybe. And I want to come in here, or I'm just moving and rotating. I want to move this up directly up, so I'll do 90 degrees in my inspector. And then why don't we scale it down like so. Notice how I'm just making good use of only grabbing like one handle at a time, right? So let me put the, and there we go. I can probably do it a little bit better. And there's a satellite on my ship. I still don't like how it's not sitting in there totally. So just kind of moving it in several angles. See, look, we're just having trouble. How can I get this position exactly? Well, why don't we look at it from a side view? Ooh, that looks pretty good. Why don't we look at it from a back view? Ooh, that looks pretty good. And look what we got. By positioning it in a side view like so, and then position it in a front view, we get the most perfect position. That's a little trick for you. All right, so the last thing we got to do with these parts is we got to organize them. So what we're going to do is we're going to select my cockpit, and why don't I zoom into my hierarchy so we can see what I'm doing. I'm going to select every single part. See how it's all just mixed and mingled in here now? Our hierarchy is starting to look a little bit messy, isn't it? So I'm going to select my cockpit, my fuselage, engine, and these two little shapes for my satellite. And don't fear, I was holding down the control button as I clicked things so I could additively select things. So I can select my cockpit cone. I'm holding down left control, and I'm just adding everything. And then after everything's added, I can let go of the control key. Now I'll left click and drag right on top and let it drop right on top of player model. And look what we've done. Let me zoom out. We now have a player model that we can expand and contract. It's got all the parts I just placed. So the most important part of all this, though, is making sure our fuselage was right in the center of my grid, 0, 0, 0. And then we placed things where we wanted them, mainly just down the center of our ship. And then we organized everything by dragging and dropping them under player model. So next, we're going to create the left side of my ship, maybe some wings and some weapons. All right, so we're going to keep adding parts to my scene. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make maybe slide this a little bit bigger so I can get a good view of these wings. So I got like a curvy wing, kind of a boring straight one. That could be cool. I like that one. All right, so how do we get objects into our scene? We can just drag and drop them, or we can drag them into our hierarchy. Look what we're going to do here. This is going to be a very nice little trick. I'm going to take my wing wide. I'm not going to just drag and drop it anywhere in my hierarchy. I'm going to drag and drop it straight to the left side. So now my left side has a drop down just for my wing. All right. So everything we create on the left side of my ship here, we're going to put in that group. We're going to organize as we go. I'm going to move this back here. I'm going to make it kind of fat. Maybe stubby a little bit. I don't know. I'm just making something random. So there's one wing. It's very aerodynamic. Good thing we're in space, huh? So why don't I add an engine to the back of it, or to the side of it? I'm going to take engine egg, drop it on the left side. Uh-oh. I committed a terrible mistake. Oh no. I'm going to have to undo everything with Control Z. Look what I was doing when I was scaling and moving my wing. I wasn't moving my wing. My wing is zeroed out over here. See how it says 0, 0, 0, oh, excuse me, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, whatever. You know what I was doing? I was actually moving the left side group. So that's bad. If you find yourself accidentally moving like an empty game object, that's just kind of like a folder. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to select that empty game object we called left side and just reset its position. And what you'll see is now we have the wing exactly as what it looks like when we brought it into the scene. So make sure you're actually selecting specific parts when you start moving them and scaling them. I'm going to do the same thing here. Maybe make it a little bit stubby. There we go. Perfect. So my left side is zeroed out, and my wing is now the one with all the different values, because I moved it and I scaled it differently. So we have different values there now. And why don't we just add that egg back? I'm going to put it directly on left side. And I'm just going to kind of put them at the end. And I kind of want to make this like a little sphere engine. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just having fun. There we go. Turn that egg into kind of a sphere. And then why don't we grab some weapons? I'm going to drag and drop this salvo missile thing. Maybe we'll put it underneath. Ooh, this is going to be tricky. Look, it's not kind of flush. So what I'm going to do to get it to rotate is I'm going to hit my E key for rotation. I'm just going to rotate in the Z. So it's kind of following the rotation or slope of that wing there. I'm going to bring it in so it's kind of like part of the wing now. See how we can do that? Very cool. So there's my missiles. And I'm going to bring in a double laser. Oh, I just accidentally put double laser in the wrong place. I'm going to drag and drop it on the left side. And I'll take my double laser. And I'm just going to have it like sticking out in the front here. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. A little bit thinner. Man, that doesn't look too good. I'm going to stick it on the front of my engine then. We'll make a fat laser. That looks a lot better, doesn't it? Nice. It looks like a good position too. All right, cool. And why don't I just put like a little hose on the wing just to give it some flair. We can just put it kind of on the top. Ooh, I got an idea. See how I'm kind of just sloping it at the right angles, moving it just right. It's a little hard at first. I'll probably make it look a little bit easier than it actually is, but that's how I got this good practice. And then why don't we take this guy and put it in front like that. So he's got like some mega wires, some mega cooling systems coming on his wing right there. Look how just much of a flourish that adds. That just makes it look really cool, doesn't it? Cool. And you know what? I think I'm done with my left side. Perfect. And look, left side already has all the things on it. Oh goodness. Control Z to undo that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to mirror my left side to make a symmetrical right side. Okay? And then the ship will be ready to save. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to collapse left side. In fact, I'm going to zoom in maybe up there. I'm going to collapse left side. And with left side selected, Control D. Ooh, left side 1. So I'll zoom out. And inside with left side 1 selected, I'm going to go over to my inspector. And we'll call this right side. And before we leave, let's take that -1 right there, or that 1, and turn it to -1. And voila. Perfectly mirrored right side of your ship. It's pretty cool looking, isn't it? Alright, so all we had to do, and I'll redo it real quick, duplicate the left side, rename it to right side, and in my scale X value right there, I'll just type in -1 instead of 1. Bing, boom. Now we have a nicely organized player model with a left side and a right side. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just nestle right side under there by just left click and dragging. And then all the middle parts of my ship. This looks like one funky ship, man. I like it. I'm really liking it. Okay. Alright, so now we got to save the scene that I was just working in. Okay. So what we're going to do, we want to save the work we just did, right? We just did some pretty good work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File and go to Save Scene As. Control-Shift-S for the shortcut. And that's going to bring up this window like this. We're going to go to Scenes. I'm going to call this Player Model. I like how we named it in our hierarchy. Now, if I go to Open Scene, go to Scenes, we can see my Start Scene, and now I have a new scene called Player Model. Guess what's in it? Yep, it's our ship. Cool. So now we're ready to use this ship in the future. We start adding, guns and controls to it and getting it working in our game. So let's say that we're done with our work for the day, and you want to back it up so you can put it on a flash drive or a USB or whatever. How do you go about doing that? Okay, well, easy steps. First, we're going to go to File, and we're going to save all of our scenes. So if we go to File, Save Scene. Then we're going to go to File, Save Project. Excuse me. So this ensures that everything in our game is saved right now. And we're welcome to go ahead and close out Unity. I'm going to minimize this right here. All right. So what we have now is no Unity, but a bunch of saved work we did. Remember this folder that you dragged and dropped to the desktop? It should be kind of called this. Well, let's click into it and look at it. Well, there's our assets, and there's that familiar scenes folder. Ooh, we got a player model scene. Real quick, guys, never mess with files right here. So basically, if you're inside your Windows folder and you want to rename your player model to like player model scene, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Okay? The only way you should make edits to names of things or locations of where things are saved is inside the Unity program itself. So all we're going to do is literally just select the folder that was on our desktop. And this is Windows, so sorry Mac users. We're going to right click on it, and we're going to go to Send To, and we're going to send it to a compressed zipped folder. And it's going to get to work compressing it, making it smaller. And this is also just a good way to kind of protect your work. A zip folder can't be changed or edited. So everything that you did will forever be saved in this new folder with a zipper. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it to rename it. And at the start of it, I'm going to give it the date. I think it was like 6/19/2017. And that's all the work that we did today on the 19th of June. So now what we're going to do is we really kind of don't need this anymore unless you want to make some quick changes. But this is where we want to this is what we want to back up. So you'll take this folder, you'll take it to, I don't know, whatever flash drive that you have. You'll just drag and drop it on there. Boom. Oh, well, there's 1%. Gotta love them. So now, on the 6/19 of June, all the work I did for my space shooter has been saved. I can even click into it. Go to my scenes. Oh, and there's my new folder or new scene that I made with my player model in it. Awesome. Now I have my work backed up on my USB drive right here, along with my classwork and some other projects I was working on. And you're ready to, be finished for the day. So thanks for watching this. It ran a little bit long, but we learned so much today. And remember, you can work on this stuff at home as well. All right. Happy creating, guys.